I'm still at TIFF and I just watched Christy, and in this film, Sydney Sweeney looks to really level up her acting career in her first biopic as Christy Martin. This is easily her best performance to date. Now, I don't think the movie is that amazing, but this feels definitive as a career performance, kind of like what Elvis was for Austin Butler or Priscilla was for Kaylee Spaney. You see these actors in these roles, and though they're able to do other things after the fact, when you think of them, that's kind of the first project that comes to mind, and this is kind of what's going to be the future for Sydney Sweeney, in my opinion. Obviously, Euphoria is the most popular, but I still do think in this film, it takes place over so much time, and there's so much chunky story and things to kind of chew on. I don't think the movie's perfect, but I think that Sydney Sweeney is at least attempting something unique. Because of how much time that this film spans, I think the most logical comparison instead of Austin Butler is actually Kaylee Spaney's Priscilla. Even though I do think that film, that performance, the direction, the pacing, everything about that movie is 100 times better than Christy. It does feel like the time spanned in this film is actually worth your while to an extent, especially in the back half of the film where you do feel a physical evolution to the character. She is literally like a high schooler in the very beginning of this movie, and you end with her court case and all of these real life, pretty recent, like within the last 15-20 years, things happening. I do have a couple more things about the performance before I get into more of the overall film. As interesting as this performance is, I still to an extent would make the statement that she's not an amazing actress. I feel like I might have came out of the gate a little too heavy with this, but she did a very heavy accent in Eden, which to an extent feels like a period piece, and I think it's not very good. And in this one, she does a slight Western accent, and I think it's completely okay. Now, the reason I bring up accents more so than writing, thematic, or emotional evolution ideas in this film is that it feels like the definitive piece of what really brings her acting together, and that's the problem, is it all feels really fake. I think the movie actor problem is a big one that Hollywood has, in that we see these celebrities so often that they feel like themselves more than they do a piece of a film, and you see them once every year or two when they have a new project come out. Again, the performance isn't bad, but it's just so okay, and it's so not interesting that with a performance like this, I feel like anyone could have done it. My definitive statement for this film is kind of just, it's nothing horribly wrong. I knew nothing about the story going in, and it still felt slightly predictable in that there's not a certain act that stands out. It doesn't evolve to a level that feels very unique to me. I think the third act definitely has a little bit of a dip because it's such a stagnant story, and at least I kind of knew where it was going. But this film is a whopping 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I don't know when Hollywood stopped using editing rooms properly, because this movie is far too long. Now granted, I've said this a couple times in my recent videos, I'm at a film festival, I'm watching 3 to 4 movies a day. I don't know why we are constantly making movies over 2 hours and 20 minutes. It makes no sense to me. But in the time, I will give the film the fact that it does do a successful job of overarching the tale of someone's life, and I think a lot of that is in the evolution of the sets, the costume design, and all of those technical elements. The physical technical elements of this film are by far the best part of it. Even though comparison is the thief of joy, I do think that biopics need to be stylized in some form, because you're in a different time and you're talking about someone's life and trying to understand their perspective on it. The best example of this in recent history to me is Priscilla, in that it feels like you are seeing the light of Priscilla's youth and her joy kind of disappear as the film's runtime goes on. And you know, I think that film runs for a little bit too long as well. But it makes it even worse in this movie when there is no style. There is nothing unique about the visual language, whether it is the composition or it is just the way that the movie is captured. I don't think the boxing looks interesting. I don't think the personal life of Christy Martin looks interesting. There is just no sauce anywhere to be found. At the end of the day, Christy is just completely okay. I think it's the most interesting thing that Sydney Sweeney has done thus far in her career, but the bar's so low that even in a 2 hour and 15 minute overarching tale of this boxer's life, you don't really get anything interesting out of it. Overall, I'm gonna give Christy a 5 out of 10. I think this is a completely fine movie. If you like Sydney Sweeney or you like boxing films, I'd recommend checking it out. As always, let me know what you thought of Christy in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.